Hello everyone, it's me, John Flynn here again. I apologize for not posting a video on YouTube in quite a while. My laptop has been down due to stuff, and this is the first week I'm able to do NFL Picks on YouTube. And joining me for this one is a good friend of mine from back in New York. His name is Chris Coriali. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope everyone's having a good day, and we're ready for some Week 3 picks here.
And I understand that I had a better Week 2 so far. I've been like 4 or 5 games better than, maybe 4 better than Chris in this accent, but so what better do? And I think we're ready to go, and we will start with the 2 games of the local teams from New York. We'll start with the New York Football Giants taking on the Washington Redskins. What do you got for that one, quickly, Chris?
All right. This is a big game in the NFC East if you look at it. If you want to look at it in the way that the Redskins won the division last year, and you could talk about how they took advantage of a bad schedule, which, to be honest, I think you'd be silly to argue against that. But you have to give them their due. They won the division. But this year, at 0-2 right now, they're in a very dangerous spot, traveling now to the Meadowlands to take on the Giants, who are 2-0. The Giants, who they haven't looked unbeatable this year, but they've won 2 close games. And, especially when you look at the Giants, defensively, they're just so much more improved. I mean, they dominated the Saints offensively on the defense side of the ball last week. Drew Brees couldn't get anything done. The defensive line looks to be so much better this year. They stopped the run better. But I think the big improvement this year is the secondary looks so much better. I mean, when you have Janoris Jenkins, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, plus, rookies like Eli Apple stepped in. He's looked pretty good so far. Darian Thompson, the 3rd-round pick out of Boise State, has looked pretty good in the safety position. I mean, overall, you got to be impressed with how the Giants have looked. And I know offensively on Sunday they didn't look great against the Saints. They really had they screwed up a ton of times. They fumbled 3 times, which normally you're not going to win games like that, but they somehow found a way to win. When I look at this game, I see a Redskins team that really is out of whack right now. Just not a lot of things going right. Kirk Cousins has not looked that great. There seems to be some dissension in that locker room about if people want Kirk Cousins starting. And we all know that when you have a team that has that kind of problems in the locker room, that usually doesn't end up working out for that team. And I think the Redskins here at 0-2, they're going to come out really in must-win mode. If they go to 0-3, I don't think they have a shot.
And plus, I think the Redskins are the worst team in the NFC East because they took advantage of a very poor NFC East where the Giants just simply didn't want to win the division. Romo was hurt for almost all of last year, and the Eagles had their hot mess, and Washington took advantage. And by the way, Washington did not beat a winning opponent last year, which is why I'm picking the New York Giants in rather comfortable fashion, much more comfortably than the last couple weeks. So I'm going to say 21-10 for the Giants.
All right, and I mean, for me, I have the Redskins playing this game pretty tightly. Because at 0-2, that I just don't see them going down easily here. I think they're going to put everything they have into this game. I mean, this is basically their season, I would think. And at the same time, though, the Giants are the better team. They got the better defense, and they got the better offense. And even though I think they'll improve from last week's performance, I think they'll put a couple of touchdowns in the end zone offensively. Expect Odell Beckham to get his first touchdown of the year this year.
Really? Against Josh Norman, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I thought he played well against Norman last year. Remember, he had that one long touchdown drop that would have been a touchdown. Then he scored another one late in the game to tie it. I think Odell gets in the end zone this week, finally, and give me the Giants in a close game. Giants 23, Redskins 20.
All right, the Kansas City Chiefs take on the New York Jets in Arrowhead Stadium. The Jets coming off a win, and Kansas City coming off a loss in Houston. What do you got for this one?
Yeah, this is another interesting game here to talk about. When you look at the Jets, you see a team that, they through 2 weeks so far, they've shown some good things about them, but then you've seen some things that you don't really like. For example, offensively in week 1, they didn't look that great. Ryan Fitzpatrick looked very shaky. But in week 2, against some pretty, as you could probably think now, the Bills don't look that great at all. But he did have a very impressive game last Thursday night. This is going to be a tougher test, though. Going to Kansas City, where it's not an easy place to play. Going up against a Chiefs team that, they have a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. But I think defensively, they're still a team that you don't want to overlook, especially at home. And offensively, it looks like they're going to get Jamal Charles back this week, which is going to be a big help to, when Jamal Charles is healthy, he's one of the better running backs in the league. And, if they can avoid turning it over, this Jets defense has not looked great through 2 weeks. They've given us some long plays defensively. Darrelle Revis does not look like the old Darrelle Revis that we have grown accustomed to. I think this game will be close again, but in the end, give me the Chiefs at home. Chiefs 24, Jets 23.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game between two teams that are viable playoff contenders in the AFC. The Jets with one of the best defensive lines in the league, and now all of a sudden Matt Forte is looking like the Forte of old with 3 rushing touchdowns and 100 rushing yards. But I just think the game is in Kansas City. I think the home field advantage is going to play a role in this. I also think they have the better coach in Andy Reid, and I like the Chiefs in a close one. This one's going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be a bit high scoring because the Chiefs have some holes on defense. That have been exposed by by San Diego and Houston. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs to go to 2-1. Chiefs 30, Jets 28. All right, and so now it's my turn to select game of the week in this week, and I'm in PA, and the two teams are from PA. The Pittsburgh Steelers and Philadelphia Eagles are both 2-0, and I like the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one. I just think that how they found a way to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I like the way Big Ben handled the pressure. I like the way Mike Tomlin handled the coaching. But then there's the Eagles side with Carson Wentz and his two incredible games, albeit they were against the Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears, the 2 worst teams in the NFL. But I think with experience in hand, I think Carson Wentz is going to expose Pittsburgh's secondary a little bit. But I think this is going to be another good game. It's going to come down to the wire. But I like Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the game in the final minutes of the game. Steelers 31, Eagles 28.
Yeah, John, I agree with you. I think this is a game that's definitely going to come down to the wire. When I look at it, it pains me to say as a Giants fan, but Carson Wentz, the Eagles might have found something there. I understand he's played 2 bad teams in his first 2 career starts, but going on the road, his first road start on a Monday night in prime time, it's not easy no matter who you play. And he impressed me against the Bears, and he was dominating against the Browns. So you got to give him credit where it's due. But this is going to be his biggest test. The Steelers team, it looks like right now to me, John, through 2 weeks they look like the best team in football. And there's a lot of teams that have looked like they've been struggling so far to start off the year. Some teams that you would think are at the top, like Green Bay, they haven't looked 100%. So, but the Steelers through 2 weeks, they killed the Redskins in week 1, and they ended up, in bad weather last week at home to the Bengals in a rivalry divisional game. They ended up pulling out the win there. So it's a team that looks very good right now. Their problem over the past couple of years has been defensively, but so far this year they look very good, getting pressure on the quarterbacks. I think Carson Wentz, he'll do some good things in this game because I think he has some great talent, but I don't think he hasn't seen a defense like he's going to see this Sunday. And I think, like you said, I agree with you. It's going to be a close game, but in the end, in a game that comes down to the wire, like you said, give me the Steelers here on the road, going to 3-0. Steelers 23, Eagles 19.
All right. So we got, and also another couple things to mention. Doug Peterson was the offensive coordinator, I believe, for Kansas City under Andy Reid, and I think his offensive philosophy works very nicely for Carson Wentz. Like, I mean, low risk throws, high rewards in the end, finishing drives in the end zone. That's what makes good quarterbacks, and I'm impressed with Carson Wentz in his first 2 games, and I think he'll prove something. But I just think the Steelers will get the ball last, and then win it down the wire. All right, let's go to the next game on our list. It's the Denver Broncos at undefeated 2-0, coming off 2 home wins against Carolina and Indy, traveling east to Cincinnati to take on the 1-1 Bengals, coming off a tough loss in Pittsburgh. And I like the Cincinnati Bengals in this one. I think this is the year the Bengals are overdue to demonstrate how tough they can be, how talented they are, and in retrospect, see Cincinnati get to the promised land for the first time in over a quarter of a century. And I think Trevor Siemian's going to struggle in his first road trip as an NFL starter in Cincinnati. The front seven's going to be wild. I think that they have the jungle. They know Cincinnati's a tough place to play, but give me the Cincinnati Bengals to pull one out here in a close game. I think Denver will put up some points somehow, but give me the Cincinnati Bengals in a tight one. Bengals 28, Broncos 24.
To me, when I look at this game, I think this is going to be more of a lower scoring game. When I look at the Bengals, through 2 weeks so far, week 1 they struggled against the Jets. Dalton got sacked 7 times. And that game really came down to the wire. And the offense did pick up later in that game, but they did struggle for a large part. And then last week, more of the same. They struggled against the Steelers. They couldn't really move the ball too much. AJ Green was shut down. They couldn't really run the ball well. So, I mean, this is an offense really that really has been struggling. And I know they have started off on the road their first 2 games, and now they're back home. But, especially against the Broncos defense that they have to face now, that's, I think, one of the best in the leagues still, even with DeMarcus Ware, who's out now for, I think I saw 4 to 5 weeks or something like that. Even without him, I mean, Von Miller's probably arguably the best defensive player in the league. And then what I've seen from the Broncos on the offensive side of the ball is a team that has run the ball very well with C.J. Anderson, and that's what they need because Trevor Siemian is basically a rookie, still learning how to play in the NFL. And even speaking of Siemian, he hasn't looked that bad in his first 2 starts here. I think this is going to be a tougher matchup for him because the Bengals do pose a great defense, and I think this game comes down to who can run the ball better. And I think that goes to Denver. And I like Denver in Cincinnati to go 3-0 in a lower scoring game here in overtime. How about that one? Broncos 17, Bengals 14.
Alrighty, so this and very rarely do both of us oppose, but we do oppose sometimes. So yeah, once in a while. There were some games last week because I know I couldn't upload last week because of my laptop issues, but whatever. Let's get to another game here as the undefeated Minnesota Vikings travel to Carolina to take on the 1-1 Panthers, coming off a shellacking of the San Francisco 49ers, and things are looking bleak even more for Minnesota, even if they're 2-0. No Teddy Bridgewater and no more Adrian Peterson in 2016 with the torn meniscus in his left knee. He is out for the rest of the season, and I just don't. I couldn't believe Minnesota pulled that one out against the Packers over the weekend on Sunday night. But their defense looked terrific. They held Randall Cobb in check. They found ways to shut down Aaron Rodgers, and give Minnesota props for that. But now the big test comes against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are home. They are back to normalcy after putting up 46 points against the 49ers. And give me the Carolina Panthers in a comfortable margin over the Minnesota Vikings as they bring the pain. Panthers 33, Vikings 20.
Yeah, when I look at this is another very this is an interesting game when you look at it, and the fact that, like you said last week, I mean the Vikings really did pull one out against Green Bay, and that was without Adrian Peterson running well and then getting hurt, and then with Sam Bradford as the starting quarterback. But I got to give him credit. He didn't look that bad against a Green Bay defense that's not too shabby, and he made some good throws, and the emergence of Stephon Diggs has really, really helped Minnesota. I mean, he looks like he could turn into one of the better receivers in football as this year keeps progressing. But now they have to travel to Carolina, and I have some problems with Carolina. For one thing, the defense does not look as good as it looked last year. I mean, they did let San Francisco stick around in that game for a little while last week. The 49ers almost put up 30 points on them. And then, in week one, they didn't exactly shut down Denver and Trevor Siemian. So I have some problems with that defense, but man, that offense looks, it looks back to where it was last year. Cam Newton had looked terrific last week against the 49ers, and I get that the 49ers defense isn't good, but, Cam Newton looked like Cam Newton last week, and the return of Kelvin Benjamin is only going to help Carolina. I thought he was a big missing piece last year for them, and having him back to normal, Cam finally has his number one receiver back. So, I mean, when I look at this game, I see a game that, I think Sam Bradford's going to struggle. He's not going to have as much success as he had last week. Minnesota's offensive line isn't that great. I think Bradford will be under a ton of pressure this week. And I think the Vikings, with their great defense, I think they'll hold Cam Newton and the Panthers offense down for a little while. But in the end, I just think that offense is too good with the Panthers to lose this game. I like Carolina in a close game at home. Carolina 21, Minnesota 17.
Alrighty, so now let's take a look at the rest of the picks for week number 3. I see that you like New England over Houston. You like Baltimore over Jacksonville in a rather comfortable margin. I also see you like Oakland over Tennessee. You like Miami over the lowly Browns. I see you like Arizona over Buffalo. I see you like the Green Bay Cheeseheads, as you call them, over the Lions in a close game. I'm a bit surprised you made a close game. Why so close?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it's a divisional matchup. Green Bay has not. There's been something off with Green Bay. Week 1 they beat Jacksonville, although it was a close game, and I get Jacksonville.
Jacksonville is better than they were last year.
Yeah, no, they are. They have some talent there, but wasn't an easy win for Green Bay. But even more so, the last week they really struggled offensively. They couldn't get anything done, and the offensive line couldn't protect Aaron Rodgers. He was running around a lot. They couldn't really run the ball that well, and I know I think they'll have more success against Detroit's defense. But in a divisional matchup, Detroit usually plays Green Bay tough. I think Green Bay will pull out the win, but don't be surprised if it's close.
Yeah, but the Lions have only won in Green Bay once in the last 25 years, and that was last year. But the Packers are much better a team than last year. I have Green Bay winning by 10 points in that one. And one thing we do oppose on is the Baltimore-Jacksonville game. So why Baltimore?
Well, Jacksonville right now, I saw they have a ton of injuries on the defense side. I know Prince Amukamara, who's their big free agent signing from the Giants, he's nursing an injury, not 100%. I know they have some offensive line problems right now, a couple of injuries there. It's a team that right now I don't think they're not 100%. And when they are 100%, they're a talented team. But I think right now they're not. And Baltimore, offensively, it's a team that defensively they're pretty good. I say defensively they have some great talent there. Offensively they've struggled this year so far, and I don't, they have talent there. They just really haven't been able to score a lot of points. But I think this week against battered Jacksonville defense. I think they break out this week.
Yeah, it was some, but I think Jacksonville, because coming off that unacceptable effort against San Diego, I really like the way they played against Green Bay week number 1. I like the way Blake Bortles went toe to toe with Aaron Rodgers until that final play where Green Bay got the stop when they needed to the most. But I just think Jacksonville has more talent. I think they have more talent on defense, but Baltimore got really exposed last week in the first quarter against Josh McCown and the Cleveland Browns. I mean,
sure.
That's the essential of a trap game that Baltimore miraculously won, but I don't think they're going to get away with it against the more talented team in Jacksonville, and I disagree with that Baltimore pick, respectfully. But let's get to the other slate of games. Toward the later portion of Sunday afternoon. Both of us have LA over losing to Tampa. Both of us have Seattle over San Francisco. But one thing we do have, and we do object to each other on, is San Diego over Indianapolis. Of course, the Colts had 2 dreadful defensive showings, but I picked the Colts because San Diego's a much lesser defensive team. Granted, they almost pummeled the Chiefs in the first half of week 1 matchup, but I just don't. Can you explain why San Diego?
San Diego, because I think the Colts right now are, I don't want to say a mess, but it's close. I mean, when you look at it, defensively, they're awful. They have no playmakers on that defense. And going out west to play San Diego, who I get that
games in Indianapolis.
It's in Indy. That's right. But I mean, when I look at and then the Colts offensively, they don't run the ball well. I know they have some playmakers at the wide receiver position, but Andrew Luck always is in trouble because the offensive line's always bad. It's a team right now that has so many holes, and when I look at San Diego, they have, Keenan Allen's out for the year. He's their big playmaker.
So which is another reason why I picked the Colts. And another reason why I have Indianapolis is because among the 3 teams, San Diego, Denver, and Detroit, San Diego has a much lesser amount of talent on the defensive side, so the offensive line wouldn't have to worry that much about the opposition. And plus, Andrew Luck has T.Y. Hilton, and San Diego has little help in the secondary, so I think T.Y. Hilton's going to have a big day on Sunday. I think Philip Dorsett's going to have a good day. But I just think the Colts have more talent offensively than San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, also for me, we've seen in past years now, where, the Colts, they've struggled in, there's been games where they just haven't been clicking. And I mean, we saw against Detroit week 1. I know you just mentioned Detroit, but, that was a game where both teams put up a lot of points, but the Colts just couldn't stop anything. And they couldn't stop anything Detroit did. And, when I look at the Lions offensively compared to the Chargers offensively, the Lions, I guess you could say they're a little bit better on the offensive side of the football.
They were awful against Tennessee.
Right. I know, but, yeah.
So inconsistent offenses don't win in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just comes down to, I think Phillip Rivers, he actually hasn't looked that bad this year so far. And with Indy right now, they have to prove to me that they can, protect Andrew Luck and that they can have some stops defensively.
Yeah, but I mean, if the Colts can't beat San Diego, how are they going to win games this year?
That's a good point.
So they're going on to the primetime games. Both of us have Dallas over Chicago. Granted, I think Dallas is going to be more of a blowout because the Bears are coming off short rest, coming off a terrible performance against the Eagles, both offensively and defensively, and plus they lost Jay Cutler for a little while, so that's why my score is more of a blowout. And then Monday night, it's going to be overshadowed by the Hillary Trump debate, but I think it's going to be a classic showdown between 2 of the league's best offenses. But I just think there's going to be more points than you have, Chris. You have 34-27. I have 45-41. But either way, both defenses are terrible. Both offenses are good. That's a perfect recipe for a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I just think I think the Saints last week, they showed, against the Giants, they did show that maybe they're not god awful defensively. I mean, I don't know if the Giants.
Just think how more different the game would have been had the Giants not lose those 3 fumbles.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
If the Giants didn't lose any of those fumbles, I think it's like it's like 34-13 written all over it.
Yeah, could be.
Yep. And with that in mind, that's going to wrap up this video for week number 3 NFL Picks. Let's see how both of us do on this front, and we'll see you next week for some more Pigskin Pick'em.